We have the patch notes from a while ago, actually. But we have an update as of the 16th, which is today, and some others. So emblem slots have now been enabled for the most recent Alliance tournament ships. We've seen those, or, that's fine, whatever. But previous to that, we see the Triglavian invasion section of the opportunity window will now refresh more frequently and fix an issue which would prevent pins from being able to be decommissioned after saving a template. Okay. And then on the 12th, so prior to that, we have new Triglavian invasion section has been added to the opportunities window, which is only visible while in Pochfin. This page now shows all of the instances of select sites within the region, regardless of range. The select sites are observatory flashpoints, world arc assault flashpoints, and stellar fleet deployment sites. So that's a pretty big deal. As of right, like prior to this, you would have to go and patrol around Pochfin to find where these sites are spawning if you wanted to, say, harass people or run them. And then Operation Observatory flashpoints will no longer appear within cosmic anomaly sections of the agency or opportunity windows. So, this is going to change a little bit about how people live in the space and find the different sites. Not a big deal. Then the DAW's liminality locus structure will now periodically emit pulses that can disrupt the cloaking devices of players within their solar system. This is a big deal. So basically, it used to be that AFK cloaking was a big deal where, people would just sit in a system in nullsec, AFK, cloaked up, and exert psychological pressure on all of the people that are in that system, because the idea is that, like, they could appear at any time and attack them. And so they're able to suppress their ability to do ratting and mining and stuff within that system without even being at their computer. And this was seen as being like a big deal, and people complained about it. And so eventually CCP developed the observatory that players can drop down. The observatory takes, I think, 10, 15 minutes to online and then starts pulsing every 10 minutes. And has, I think it's a 50-50 chance of knocking somebody out of cloak. That's why whenever you cloak now, you see the cloak stabilization field. That's the amount of time that you have where no observatory can knock you out of cloak. Okay? All this was added in order to deal with that AFK cloaking situation where now if the person is truly AFK, you can drop one of these things and knock them out of cloak and then go and get them. If they are not AFK, then they can easily just cloak and uncloak, or sorry, uncloak and recloak, and then boof, they've got another period of time where they don't have any chance of being decloaked. So it was a pretty fair balance and kind of took care of that problem. However, when they did that, it was really important to wormholers, especially, that this not come to wormholes, because the idea of being able to cloaky camp a wormhole is really important, and the psychological effect of being in local doesn't exist in wormhole space because there's no local, or at least it's delayed local. So it was left out of wormhole space, and as a consequence, I think, also Pochfin. Now, largely this was also seen as kind of good in Pochfin as well. However, over time, we've had what has been known as CCTV, where various people will put in cloaky eyes in various places and then stream those eyes. The most famous of these is Uudama Scout, right? Which usually streams Uudama gates. So that way, if you're hauling through Uudama, you can go and check out that stream and see what's going on in Uudama before you jump your precious cargo into the gank hole, right? Well, over time, people have started doing this more and more in Pochfin, and this ended up causing a big, annoyance for the people that live in Pochfin. So they complained and they asked, especially through, I think Drake was a big component to this. And so now, rather than allowing players to deploy their own observatories, now the DAW's liminality locus, which is their equivalent of the observatory. That's the thing that is built in Triglavian minor victory systems and Pochfin in order to put out the status effect on all ships that make it so that, your remote reps are increased, but your number of locks are cut in half and your warp speed is reduced. That device now puts out a ping as if it was an observatory, like a player observatory, that removes cloaking devices. Again, if you're physically at the keyboard, all you have to do is decloak and cloak real quick, and you're back to being immune to being knocked out. However, if you want to try to keep somebody AFK and cloaked in Pochvin, that is no longer going to be possible. At a certain, within a certain period of time after your cloaking immunity is off, you will be decloaked by the Daz Liminality Locust. However, they've also made it so that it's harder to kill the Daz Liminality Locust. Add a link for Skinner to show info windows for design elements. Added a skill points required section for the skill training panel for relevant information windows and tooltips. Warping animation or special effects on the Kikamura has been restored. Decloaking special effects on Zarzak jump gates have been restored. Breacher audio can now be heard on capitals and super capitals. I do have that video where you can hear the Breacher audio pod's audio. It's really cool. The Caldari Freighter skill book is now being sold by NPCs in Caldari schools again. Roaming NPCs should once again be able to warp to the acceleration vector of these sites, the observatory flashpoint, and sub-pylon proximity counters should now correctly update when multiple capsuleers enter a lead at the same time. Just little bugs that they're fixing with what they were doing to observatory flashpoints. And then the beacon that spawns during a capital escalation can no longer be collided with. Note that the new local beacon group is used by the beacon may need to be added to your overview if using non-default settings. So once again, they're still just, these are fixes that they've been putting in and tweaking little bugs. Well, front spotlights for Vedmak no longer detached from the ship when in attack mode. Concord Victory skins rotating sirens move smoother. I think this is just, this is all just graphical updates, little tweaks here and there. None of these really stand out to me as being worth pointing out. Fixed a quote attribution in designer for the Bifrost and the Mammoth. And there was an error with PI templates if you use a non-standard path. And of course, for the PI templates, we have stuff about that. Hold on, we have made adjustments to the base payout ratio. Oh yeah, this is a big one. We have made adjustments to the base payout ratio and to the components included in the Dreadnought reprocessing to include the increase the insurance payouts for Dreadnoughts closer to their real value. Our current aim for the Dreadnought is to pay about 70-75% of the ship's whole value with a platinum insurance on death, rather than about 15%, which it currently does. So this is interesting. The relationship between insurance and ships have always been kind of a fraught one. So in the beginning, I think it was like, what, insurance is, what, 80%, right? You're not a ship. I can't insure it while it's not packaged, right? Hello, world. All right. Insuring a praxis is a dumb thing to do anyways. Oh, hey. Yeah, that's right. New video. Very dark. I love the little bobs that they added. That looks so sick. Oh, shit. You can't see. You can't see it. No! I'll do it again. I'll do it again. I'll do it again. We'll do it again. Although now it won't do the bobs. Watch. Now it won't do the bobs. Yeah. Oh, no, there they are. They are there. Action follows form, form follows thought. But no attribution to it. All right. So if we put insurance on this thing, top insurance is, it doesn't say. I thought it was 80%. Is it 80%? Whatever. At any rate, so insurance pays out a certain percentage based on the material value within the ship. That's actually one of the reasons why, interestingly enough, this is a fun little side thing, actually. If you notice, the insurance of this ship is terrible. It's only 3 ISK at its most highest point. And the reason why is because if we go into the show info of this, so the insurance is based on the material value of the ship itself. And as you can see, the reprocessed value of this ship is 1 tritanium, right? In fact, if we go into the blueprint, we can see that the manufacturing cost of this is 1 tritanium. So it is insuring against 1 tritanium worth of ISK, right? If we had a more expensive ship with more materials, then it's based on that material. This is also why T2 ships are, generally speaking, not great for insurance, because all of that T2 goo and the cost of invention is not included in the in insurance. It's only the base minerals within the ship. Same with faction ships, right? All of the value of the extra of the blueprint is lost because that's not part of the mineral value, right? So then at some point, I think it was 2014, 15, 16 era, there was a problem, which was capitals started to become pretty widely used because after insurance, it was basically as cheap to fly a carrier or a dreadnought as it was to fly a battleship, just because of the difference in insurance and or at least a T2 ship, right? Because T2 ships have low insurance, and at the time, capitals were just giant piles of minerals, and so you didn't spend that much after insurance. The capital ships themselves were pretty cheap. So to deal with this, CCP slashed the insurance values of capitals. So now capitals are just not as efficient insurance-wise as everything else, right? And this was to make it so that there was a difference between capitals and subcapitals. Now, a lot has happened since then, including the introduction of all new materials that are part of the cost of manufacturing that, if I understand correctly, are not part of the calculation for insurance. All of the R4 materials and reaction stuff, all of that effort is lost when it comes to the insurance calculations. Now, this mostly only influences battleships and capitals. But what that means is that it means that capitals have now had taken 2 hits against their insurance at a time in which they want dreadnoughts in particular to be more usable, because they've been working on they made dreadnoughts cheaper and been focused on dreadnoughts as far as like capital ships goes since Havoc or so, since the introduction of the Lancer dreads. We haven't really gotten to, I mean, carriers got jump portal generation, or not jump portal, booshing? Yeah, they got the booshing ability, but not like a complete rework in the same way, or not in a, I guess, economic rework in the same way that the dreads did. So that brings us all to what happened now, where they are making dreads affordable, not just to build, but to lose again. So you're going to get 75% of the dreadnought's value with insurance, which should make it easier to recoup losses against dread bombs. And then they also updated the agency boosters and disabled the activity tracker. Oh, yeah. So the agency boosters are actually pretty cool. So we got Pyro Lancia. We can now see on the pictures, there's a little 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you can quickly at a glance see what level of Pyro it is, or, agency booster it is, which is kind of nice, especially when you're quickly looting stuff in an event site. And the last thing is, so we have lowered the loyalty point cost for Serpentis and Blood Raider resonators from 1,000 LP to 750 LP. Several LP stores which had some faction ammo offers removed earlier in the year have had them restored. And video fragments from previous events such as EVE Operation Epiphany, finding Zarzek gates will no longer drop from Angel and Garistas NPCs. This list one's really good because people keep coming to me confused as to why they're still it's like, what is this thing that I got? I'm like, well, it was interesting like 6 months ago. This change to net resonators is kind of a quality of life thing. The problem is that Serpentis and Blood Raiders Like they don't have the ability to get LP in the same way that the Guristas and Angels did. So switching over to the net resonators impacted them a lot more. So lowering its cost brings them more in line. Now the question that I would have is, why didn't they do this with Mordu? You know, Mordu LP seems to be just as difficult, if not more difficult to get than Serpentis and Blood Raiders. I'd be curious to see what CCP thinks about the whole Mortis Legion ships at the moment, since they're really easy to get blueprints for, but really hard to get net resonators to build. Yeah. And then several LP sources. I don't know which faction ammo they're talking about specifically. When in compact mode is enabled, the sidebar no longer expands on hover. When the compact mode is disabled, the sidebar now collapses immediately when clicking on an entry. So just a little bit of fixes on the ship information window that people have been, complaining about mostly. Especially when dealing with compact mode, especially since that was kind of something they added afterwards. Skill tooltips now always display their training time. Really? Hold on. So if I pull up a skill, that's not telling me how long it takes. I guess it says how long it takes right there. I don't understand what they mean by that. That one I don't follow that one. And fixed a bug with a skyhook. Destroying a mercenary den will now update the available workforce. So just little bug fixes involving mercenary dens. Double-clicking a skill entry in skills tab will now open its info window. Hold on. So if we close this and we go to ship tree, pick a random ship, go to skills, hover over it. Aha, there it is. Time to train. Time to train, time to train, time to train. There you go. That's actually really useful. That's really useful. That's something that we asked about like 10 years ago. I like it. I like it. Fixed an issue where the window background could update incorrectly when enabling compact mode. And fixed an issue with Paragon Hub collection, which caused the preview information of design elements not be clear. That's about it. Yep, that's it for the patch notes. The PI stuff is a huge deal, in my opinion. The dread insurance fixes might change things a bit with how much they get used. Overall, pretty minor patch compared to the last couple.